I have a story of what could be. I have a story of what could be. Come, look and listen. I have a story of what could be. Come and learn with me. Are you excited? Me too. What can you see on the screen? That's right. You can see a princess and swans. The story is entitled Genevieve and the Swans, adapted from a story by Hans Christian Andersen. Long time ago, in the kingdom of Odense in Denmark, lived a king with 12 children, 11 sons, and a very beautiful daughter named Genevieve. The queen mother had died giving birth to her daughter. The king loved and pampered the 12 children. The 11 princes wore golden crowns and carried swords at their sides. They wrote on golden tablets with diamonds, pencils, and recited their lessons by heart. Their only sister Genevieve sat on a chair of solid glass and looked at a picture book that had cost half of the kingdom. The brothers loved their sister very much. They played together and took good care of her wherever they went. One day, the king married a wicked queen, Helga. She didn't like the children. She was jealous of them. She wanted to get rid of the children from the day she arrived. During her first week in the palace, she never gave the children enough food to eat. She did not allow them to play in the garden. She gave them sand in a teacup and told them to make believe it was something nice. Soon after Helga sent Genevieve to live with some peasants in the country, she didn't like to see the beauty of the princess. It did not take long before she had poisoned the king's mind and that he no longer cared for his 11 sons. Queen Helga was happy, but she was not contented. She put a curse on 11 princes. She turned them all into swans and threw them out of the palace. When Genevieve was 18 years old, the king wanted to see his daughter. Helga was angry and spiteful when she saw how beautiful Genevieve had grown. Helga pretended to welcome Genevieve. "Come, my child, you are so pretty, but you need to dress up." She brought Genevieve to her room to bath. As they got in, the queen pushed her and shouted, "You crazy fool! Do you think I will let your father see how beautiful you are?" She rubbed Genevieve's skin with a walnut juice until it struck and streamed. She smeared the innocent girl's face with a bad-smelling ointment and let it tangle her lovely hair. It was quite impossible to recognize Genevieve now. "Where is my daughter? This girl cannot be my daughter!" exclaimed the king, while Helga smiled. Genevieve was sent back to the woods, but she did not return to the peasant's cottage. She swam in a pond to remove the dirt on her face and hair. Broken-hearted, she walked and walked. "Where can you be, my dearest brother? I miss you so much. If mother were only alive, we would be separated like this," cried Genevieve. The forest was quiet as she walked on. She had not gone far when she met an old woman. "Do you live here? Have you been by any chance seen 11 princes riding through the forest?" asked Genevieve. "No," said the old woman, "but I saw 11 swans, wearing golden crowns, swimming in the stream nearby." The old woman led Genevieve to the stream. As the sun set, Genevieve saw 11 white swans wearing golden crowns flying towards the land. They glided one after the other like a long white ribbon. Genevieve climbed the cliff and hid behind a bush. The swans landed close to her, flapping their wings. As the sand sunk below the water, The feathers fell away suddenly, and there stood 11 princes. Genevieve cried out in joy, for even though they had changed, she knew in her heart they were her brothers. She jumped into their arms and called out their names. They recognized their little sister who had grown so beautiful. They all realized how wicked their stepmother had been. The eldest brother explained, "We fly as once when the sun is up. We become humans when the sun sets. We have to be on the land at this time, or we fall to our deaths. We live in country on the other side of the ocean, far from here, with no islands on the way, except for a rock large, enough for us to stand side by side. We come here now and then to visit our castle, the church where mother is buried, and your cottage." "Now we have found you, our dear sister," said the second brother. "But how can we take you with us? We have neither ship nor boat." That night, Genevieve and her brothers talked for hours, sleeping very little. Her brothers braided a large strong net of reeds and willow bark to Genevieve to sleep on. When the sun rose and the brothers changed into swans, they took the net in their beaks and flew high into the clouds with their sleeping sister. One of the swans flew overhead and spread his wings for shade. When she woke up, they were far from land. She had beside her ripe berries her youngest brother gathered for her. Evening grew close, and the swans flapped their wings harder, so they would reach the lonely rock on time. When they did, Genevieve's brothers stood around her as the waves beat against the rock. They sang a hymn that comforted and encouraged them. Morning came, and the swan took their sister to the cave where they lived. "I hope I dream of how I can rescue you from the curse Queen Helga put on you," wished Genevieve. In her dream she saw a fairy. "Your brothers can be rescued, but you must have the courage, determination, and endurance. You will feel pain and anxiety. Use the nettles around this cave and in the churchyards. Although they will sting until blisters appear, you crush them with your feet. Spin green cloth and knit 11 long-sleeved shirts. When you throw this over your brothers, the curse will be broken. But remember, you must remain silent. If you say a single word, your brothers will surely die." So Genevieve started her work. The nettles stung and blistered her hands, but she did not feel any pain. As she was thinking of her brothers, suddenly the sound of the barking dogs came from the mouth of the cave. Hunters were there too. Then the most handsome of the hunters, King William, came in and was smitten by Genevieve's beauty. "What are you doing here? Come with me. If you are sweet as you are beautiful, I will have you dressed in silk and velvet and have a golden crown on your head. You shall live in my royal palace." The king brought Genevieve to a room where the long-sleeved shirts of her brothers were on the table. "You can stay here. I don't know why you don't like to talk to me, but I know you will be happy to do the things you used to do in the cave," he said, holding her hand. "He is so good to me. He always wants me to be happy. How I love him," thought Genevieve as she began to spin and knit. She had fallen in love with him. If only she could confide in him. But she did not dare to fear that her brothers would die. The king's adviser, unfortunately, did not stop telling lies about Genevieve until King William slowly believed that Genevieve was witch. "The people must judge her," the king cried. "She shall burn at the stake," the people shouted. When Genevieve learned of the people's decision, she worked even harder to finish the 11th shirt. Her fingers were aching, but she kept on working. At dawn, less than an hour before sunrise, Genevieve's brothers stood at the gates of the palace and demanded to talk to the king. They begged until the king himself came out, but it was too late. The sun rose and the brothers were already flying over the palace. Townspeople streamed through the gates to witness the burning of the witch. Genevieve arrived on a horse-drawn cart. She was dressed in a rough sackcloth, and her lovely long hair hung loose around her lovely face. Her lips moved gently as her fingers continued to knit the green shirt. Even on the way to her death, she refused to give up her task. 10 shirts lay at her feet as she continued on the 11th. Soon, Genevieve saw 11 swans flying towards her. They surrounded her as if to protect her. She quickly threw the 11 shirts over the swans. Suddenly, in their places stood 11 princes. "Now I can speak," Genevieve cried. "I am innocent." King William ran to Genevieve, but he was too late. She sunk lifeless into the arms of her brothers. Fear, worry, and pain had taken over strength. The oldest brother told the king that all had happened. The king was sad. "I'm sorry, my love. I cannot forgive myself. I shouldn't have listened to my adviser," he cried as he cradled Genevieve in his arms. King William went to a bush and picked a white rose and laid it on Genevieve's heart. All of a sudden she awoke and embraced the king. Her heart was filled with peace and happiness. King William apologized to Genevieve and promised her a grand wedding. All the 11 brothers stayed in the palace. Genevieve and the King William lived long because they were warm-hearted and well liked by all the subjects. So that's the end of her story. Do you like the story? That's amazing!